Nick, why don't you give a quick background just to start?
Yeah, sure. On my career, kind of how I started.
Yeah, how you got in staffing, how you ended up in this world.
Well, like all of us, no one anticipated to get into staffing. I'm sure everybody you talk to says the same thing, right? But yeah, just, out of college, I had a contact from where I grew up who was in the staffing business and, introduced me to a very large publicly traded company. I always knew I wanted to get into sales. Like that was kind of the goal, to be talking to people and dealing with people in whatever regard, whether I was selling widgets or services, I didn't really care at the time. But got introduced to, a company that had tons of training and, gave me the opportunity to go sell. In 2008, Mark was not good in 2008.
What month was it?
It was December of '08. So I think in February of '09, the world fell apart, essentially. I saw people like all around me just no longer there with the firm. Just because the market was really bad. Great Depression, right? Or Great Recession, rather. Sorry. Felt like a depression some days. But it was a great experience. I mean, you learn, and that kind of actually set the roots for everything I do, because I had to, I forget when you started, but it's like it was just that much harder. So you had to do more. And you had to be in earlier and there later. And it's a tough business as it is. Yeah, I mean, it was a great place to start. I was there for a couple of years, and it's literally laid the foundation for the next 16 years.
Training is everything, like even it's kind of like a catch 22. Like I know some people who are amazing and they were never trained at all, but I feel like the folks that actually have a real process, you just put yourself in a much better position to succeed long term.
You need compare it to any sport, like basketball. I think you play basketball actually. Like fundamentals, dribbling, shooting, passing. I think there's some people that just need the fundamentals. I needed to know if you made 100 calls, you get X amount of meetings. If you had X amount of meetings, you'd have X amount of jobs. Like that's what I needed, and obviously more than that. But even today, at doing this for 18 years, if I'm not seeing the results, I'm like, well, Nick, you need to do X to achieve Y. So that training it's non-negotiable, essentially.
100%. Yeah. Well, walk me through like your process for when you first started, because that's '08 is, I'd probably say that is the worst time. I mean, yeah, we both are. But yeah, man, '08, like people weren't hiring, companies were laying people off, like that has got to be a hard time to be in
Yeah, so I
sales.
was selling finance and accounting temp services. Comm major from UMass, didn't really know anything about finance and accounting. So he was learning on the fly, both how to be a young professional and also what finance and accounting is in a tumultuous market, which was, again, I wouldn't change it for the world. At the time, it was grueling, but, it was, it's the basics, you do as much outbound activity as you can. You make sure you sound as professional as you can. You market your best candidates as often as you can. We would literally print out job ads. Maybe you did this when you first started. You'd print out a job ad from the printer and you'd go over and you'd find the manager name and you'd call that person. And if they didn't answer, you'd call them a couple hours later, right? But it was, client visits. I think it was like 20 a week. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I was doing 15. So for us, KPIs were 15 meetings a week,
Yeah.
2 happy hours a month,
Okay.
2 lunches a week. And like, as crazy as it sounds, like even with like AI and content, and there's so many new ways to get business, to me, there's nothing better you can do than just being in person. Like I used to sneak into Verizon,
Yeah.
like literally sneak in. And I had somebody I work with the other day tell me the same thing. Like he just snuck into a data center.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? So like, what do you think about from where you first started to like how it's actually changed to be able to get business?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally changed. I mean, again, the fundamentals are there. It's still about making connection, finding a pain point, adding value. Like, that hasn't changed, right? And when I was 22, like, no one knew who I was, so I had no network. So I had to work harder at building that network and those relationships. Today, in this market, I think it's the same pain points, but there's so many outlets to where you can add value before you even talk to the customer or the client. Like I'm a big cold call guy. Like I'm okay with it. I don't think it should go away. I just
agree,
don't
by
think
the way.
it's the only answer. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I do. I couldn't agree more. It's harder, it's a lot harder. Like when I first started, and I've said this before, but like I would sit and make 100 cold calls, and like I'd
Yeah.
get four to six meetings off of
Yeah,
that.
it worked. It would work.
I would name drop. I would
Yeah.
say, hey, I support this person's organization. I'm doing XYZ. I believe there's overlap with what you're doing. Like, and it's funny too, because I still think that works. I just think you have to do a little bit more upfront now. There's,
Totally.
and to your point, like you guys would print out job ads. So you can get that data now
Right. It's
automated.
Yeah.
It's a
Automated.
different game now.
Yeah, so you have to, again, you go back to the fundamentals. They're the same, but there's ways to be more efficient and do more of it at volume and be more prescriptive about it, right? But there's something about getting a hot lead and finding the right manager and making that call and adding a ton of value because you did your prep work on why you're calling that person. Like that's a fun time, you know?
Oh yeah, I agree. I don't think not everyone thinks that's a fun time, but
No,
I used
they
to.
don't.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So you have a great network, obviously. Remind me the exact accolade of 40 under 40 for SIA. How did that happen?
Yeah. It was that was exciting. That was pretty cool. You know, I think I got that in 2022. I think it was. But you know, I was at my last company for 11 years, and I was an individual contributor for a few years selling enterprise IT staffing services to the biggest brands in the US, much like you did as well. I moved into a leadership role, so then I ran the team after a few years, which was awesome too. But, you know, when you're part of something that's like a major growth story, you know, I was fortunate enough to be where I was and be nominated for that and fortunate enough to receive that award. But really it was because I worked in this massive ecosystem that helped us like grow the business. And when you win together and like you achieve hundreds of millions of dollars in growth over a period of time, like everybody's doing well, you know, and times are good. So that was a really fun time in my life, growing the business, working with a lot of like-minded people. Lucky enough to get that award. It's great to have, but it definitely took a village to like get to that point.
You have to have a good team. Yeah. It's like the back end of a good staffing agency. And there's so many components. It's like you made a couple sports references. It's almost like football where if one thing goes wrong, everything falls apart. Like you can have a great salesperson, you can have great delivery. You could, you need everything to come together at once. So talk to me a little bit about what you're doing now, right? So you took a huge leap into entrepreneurship. You're a family guy. I'm a family guy. Like it's scary, right? We always want to display that confidence and that high self-esteem, but I'm sure it was scary for you at a moment. Walk me through that. Walk me to the decision behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when you graduate college and you start to work in the workforce, you think, man, this is cool, but like, I'd like to do this by myself on my own someday. Like that's what I always thought, you know. My dad had his own business, you know, and I just think there was a lot of this. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of reward. You know, I worked for others for 18 years. I learned a ton, you know, and over those years, I certainly failed a ton and then learned because of that. I got to the point where I was like, listen, you know, it's either now or never. I had this burning desire. I had, much like you, built a network over decades, which it's like, man, I should probably do something else with this network too, you know? And I just kind of got to this inflection point in my career where I was fortunate enough to take the risk, like, and bootstrap it, you know, and I felt comfortable doing that. I had a massive support system with my family. And what I didn't want to do, Mike, is I didn't want to be 70 and think, man, you should have given that a shot. So I thought I could, and timing was right. And I made the jump. You know, now I specialize in placing talent within the staffing and workforce solution space, both, you know, leadership and individual contributors. So it's been awesome, actually. It's like, you know, I didn't think about this kind of when I got into it, but it's like a CPA going to do finance and accounting staffing. You know, I'm a practitioner. I did it. I've done it. And now I'm helping others find great jobs with great companies. So it's been awesome.
You're the expert. Yeah, and tell me if you were thinking about this. So when I first started Simple Side, I was like, okay, I could start a staffing agency and I had clients that I know would have worked with me, no doubt. But for me to be able to actually work with staffing folks was exciting. You know, it's very exciting. Like working with, like you're working with someone who's often in your same position.
Correct.
You know, like building a company, going through the headaches. How's and you touched on it before, but talk to me a little about what you're seeing, right? So there's so much with like AI is going to take everyone's job. Me personally, I think the staffing sales rep is the most in-demand skill set and the hardest to find somebody who is a high quality producer at the enterprise or the mid-market level. Talk to me a little bit about that, what you're seeing, how that's going.
Yeah, you're bang on. That's exactly what the market is demanding right now, is very skilled business development and sales folks. I think the industry, it's been a rough few years, right? It's been, 2022 was a home run, and since then it's been stagnant. And I think that firms are sick of that stagnation. They're also innovating. So they're going about how they do business differently. The market is demanding better and more business development, right? And good people that can do that. So everything that I'm seeing right now has a BD component of it. I think where once the enterprise was king, I'm seeing a lot within the mid-market space.
Same here.
There's a lot of compression at the margin compression at the enterprise side. There's still good business to have there. But so yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. I do, to touch on the AI stuff, like, I'm all for it. Like, it's your business, you do it. Like, there's a massive shift. Like, I probably need to be better at it. But to your earlier point, like, we're a service business that provides the service has people on both ends of it. So like, you're gonna need good connectors of humans, brokers, no matter what. Now, is that going to change and evolve? It has to, because the industry has been, so stagnant for the past few years. But I don't think that guys like you and me and folks that are focused on building really good relationships and adding value, I don't think that'll ever go away. I hope not.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And it's so funny too. I had a call with somebody probably about a month or two ago. And I went over like their roadmap and everything. And I said to them, I was like, you don't need me. You need a salesperson.
Yeah.
I would love to work with you, but you need somebody who has relationship building skills. You need someone who can get in front of and talk to and manage the complexity of having 7 different stakeholders and going through that 12 months that it takes to get an agreement with your actual ICP. And it's interesting, and I see both sides of it, because simple side, we implement AI, we have an outbound strategy, an outbound structure that we implement, and a content strategy. But I will be the first one to tell an agency owner, your best dollar is spent on a great salesperson. Period.
100%, 1,000%. Because what you do is really good if there's a human that can then go act on that data and those connections and those connection points. You know what I mean? Like, you need to, it's never going to go away. If you can create a really quick relationship with somebody and you can add value really quick and you can have pain points and that person, and you're not a jerk, like, you're gonna win a lot.
As simple as it is, and for me, it was always a thin line of, am I presenting myself in a way where the customer could actually take me in and build real rapport with me, but also am I setting some good expectations? Am I not being too nice? Look, I've had that with customers where you focus so much on the relationship that sometimes it actually hurts your business.
That's fair.
And somebody who's a good staffing salesperson that can manage that and go back and forth on that seesaw, that's way more important than AI. That's way more important than marketing or creating content. What are you seeing as far as like the guys who are crushing it, right? What are they doing? So you talked a little bit about mid-market. I saw your post a couple of days ago, saw reference like niching down. Talk to me a little bit about that. And who do you see who's doing well right now?
Yeah, I just, the longer I do this, the recipe doesn't change, and I think it's about being a market expert. So the companies that I see doing well, the companies that are growing, there are firms growing 30, 40, 50% right now. I want everyone to know that, because it isn't all doom and gloom and layoffs. That is happening. It is super unfortunate. But there are firms that are like crushing it. And they are, they have a niche. And that niche is either within like maybe a technical discipline or a market discipline, or like a geographic market discipline. The best firms have both. They're a technical skill set within a certain geography, and they're blown out of the water because they know where the good competitors and the bad competitors, and where the good talent is and where the good talent's coming out of from. Like, they just know everything about that market. That's a deadly skill set. Like, they're doing well.
They can scale faster too. So I think this is something that people forget. I'll give you a really specific example.
Okay.
I've shared this before. It's a failure story. I was invited to a 100-person RFP when I was in staffing.
Yeah.
And it was for a company that everybody knows. And I was personally invited. Like, hey, we want you. Like, I got the call. It was the best feeling. I ended up losing it. But the client said to me, hey, it was very easy to refer you and get you in on this RFP because you were so specialized in this one area. And I always tell staffing firms, if you do a great job with a CEO and they want to recommend you, what would they say about you? Would they say you do everything everywhere?
Right.
Or
Right.
would they say, and I'm sure you get this conversation, Nick, hey, Nick, I need a specialist in this city who has a network in this specific niche. It's easier for your customers to refer you. So what I always see with companies that are niche, they scale faster actually because they're getting referrals because they're so specialized as opposed to
Right.
we do everything.
Right. Right. No, you're dead on, and you begin to like you just know kind of the ins and outs of that niche, and you can when you're having conversations, you're not winging it or speaking in filler words. Like you're actually everything you talk about is adding value, and it resonates, so you can actually achieve more in less time. To kind of to your scaling point.
Yeah, it's it's interesting too. Like, and your post was great, and about the idea of just going after IT business, that's hard. That's
It's
harder
hard.
than
It is
ever.
hard. It is. It's hard. Like I remember, even when I got into IT when I was coming up in the business, I didn't know much about technology, right? But I would pick like I always was like, let me just pick a segment of the market that I like kind of understand and like I can relate to the buyer. Like I always related well, I felt like with the network infrastructure guys, like, and if I could build a little bit of a couple projects and I could just riff on that and continue on that, then I could actually speak to that every time I called that same person. And I just think, regardless of what it is, IT is just the easiest one because it's my background. But like, if you're ERP, pick an ERP, right? Pick one of them, you know.
I love it. I love it.
Or if it's enterprise, if it's cloud or infrastructure or AI ML, well, pick one of those three, right? Maybe you start wide and you niche down, but it does kind of change the game.
Yeah, I had to your point about that, and to your point about AI, I have a client that I'm working with. Essentially, pulled a list of 1,500 contacts, exact ICP in a specific city with a specific problem.
Yeah.
Automated the sequence for him, right? So
Okay.
he's got the list, he's got the automation, and then what he's been doing, and this goes to the point of where a human, it's important to have a good sales rep. When those messages go out, he follows up with a personalized video. He just sent me a note today. He said he's got a 40% response rate on the video that he's
That's
making.
insane. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's great because you're speaking directly to the right person who has the exact same problem that you're solving everywhere else.
Specific niche, specific city, specific problem.
Yeah.
And it's like not everybody would agree with us. Like I have, tell me if you hear this from some of your clients. Like I have a lot of clients that might say like, well, we don't want to leave money on the table. We want to be able to support everything. And I would say like, if that's working, great. Like continue to do it. But like the more I see, the harder that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it. I think I don't know. I'm kind of seeing a market shift. The generalist IT suppliers, again, just to stay on IT, I think that's kind of going away for the reasons you just mentioned. It's too hard to be a generalist IT supplier in this market, right? You need to add value quicker because these organizations are getting inbound from a lot of competitors. So you got to drain out the noise a little bit.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So business is going well. Any lessons learned, right? So maybe someone's listening, they're in staffing, they're thinking about opening up their own shop. Any lessons learned in the first couple months?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is to do it. I would just say go for it if you can. Again, I thought about it for years, and it's a mental block to do it. But if you can get over that mental block, I would recommend it. At least give it a shot. Lessons learned, like it's a challenge, but it's like a challenge for you, for me, as a person. Like it like energizes me. The challenge energizes me. I think probably the two things that I have to remind myself of is one, not to move the goalposts on myself. If I set a goal and I hit it, it's like, well, what if we did this? Like maybe we could have done that. It's like, no, all right, man, just like kind of enjoy that for a second. Don't, because you're never going to be happy with yourself. And I think that's why guys like you and I went out on our own, because we do have this drive for excellence, but it's hard to enjoy small wins, and you have to along the way, right?
So true. Oh my God. Like that resonates with me because like there's hard days, there are such hard days. And I find myself personally like moving that goalpost and thinking like, I could have done this or should have done that. You read? What are some books you read?
Well, I when I was launching this thing, I was like, I got to read Think and Grow Rich, so I did that.
Great book.
Great book. Anything in that world. I just started the $100 million leads. Is that I think you sent me
Best.
that.
So good. Alex Ramosi.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
they're
the
great.
he's
Yeah,
so I literally modeled like my offer off of him where he says
yeah,
you should have an offer so good people would feel stupid saying no. And it's like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's amazing.
Yeah. But you need what I have found for me, a lot of it was just like headspace because you are grinding it out on your own in your office with your four walls. You don't have coworkers or leadership. You are the leader and you don't, so for me, the challenge was the mindset stuff. So let me consume as much as I could. Like early on, I also built this like very small board of advisors for myself, not for my company, but for Nick Inc. And it was just people that I trusted that have gone out and done this before. And like, what were their trials? What were their tribulations? What can I expect? Like, they would share with me the brutal truth, but they would also, prove to me that hey, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And I think that was a big, my little ecosystem was huge for me, and I'm so thankful and grateful for that support.
Yeah, I mean, you need that. Like I think people don't talk about the mental aspect of being an entrepreneur and how hard it is, and it can take a lot out of you if you aren't conscientiousness and if you aren't conscientious and say, hey, I need a board of advisors, right? I need somebody to talk to.
You need it. I recommend everybody has it, even if you don't work for yourself. Like you need an ecosystem. If you're looking to try to level up your life, like you need to have people that are where you want to be. I know these guys talk about all the time, but like that's what you need because that'll give you perspective and help you be like, all right, well, there's something to aspire to.
Yeah, and they tell you straight too.
Yeah, that's the best. You might not like it, but
yeah, and for like, so look, sometimes your family doesn't always give you good advice, and this is like hard for a lot of people to grip. Like even when I was in like the storm of like my first. I mean, look, and even, I don't know what your plan was. Like when I first started Simple Side, I worked for free. Like I went out to my network and I said, I have something. I'm learning it. It worked for me. I'm confident it will work for you. Let me implement it. I'll do it for free. And then if you get value out of it, then you'll pay me. And that worked. And I kept every customer I did that with. And there was one I didn't. Yeah. I kept the overwhelming majority. And one of one of the owners of Diversant, my old firm, who sold it, it kind of like gave me this advice where he's like, just put your head down. Like, don't worry about anything else other than the business. And he told me pretty straight. He's like, the business is all that matters right now. And people in your family are going to push back on you for how much you have to work.
Right.
And that was the best advice anyone could have given me. Everyone else was like, go have some beers with your friends, go to the beach for 2 days. And I'm like, I'm do or die right now. That's not an option.
Yeah. You have to change everything. You have to, if you want it to work, you have to change your diet, who you hang out with, how your time's spent, your how you handle your mind, how you handle your vitality. You have to change it all if you want it to work. You're overcoming a massive amount of inertia, so you have to build that inertia, right? It's like being 22 again and no one knowing you, and you're ripping 100 phone calls. Like you got to overcome that. So I totally agree. I do. So every morning I write down 3 wins from the day before, so I can start my day on like a positive note. Like I know shit's coming for me. So let's talk about what you accomplish yesterday, Nick, that was really good. That could be setting up an interview, that could be a deal, that could be somebody just picking up my call, But you need that positive reference because, there's days that are a challenge.
Yeah, I was so good for years. I would always write in this notebook too. I have it with me at all times.
Yeah.
I would always write one thing I'm grateful for, or I would try to write 3 things. 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 things I'm working towards, and what will make today a win? What will make today great? I kind of got away from it a little bit, but yeah, it's such a good point. What do you think about where staffing's headed? Right. So I think we're probably in agreement. Like, where do you think the actual industry of staffing and solutions is headed? I've
been trying to answer this for like 4 years. I wish I knew. I can't tell you how many bar stools I sat on with like coworkers and be like, where do you think we're going? But I do like. Listen, I think great companies are always going to need great people. Great people are always going to need great jobs. And I don't think the industry will ever go away. I know when Monster came online, they're like, recruiting's dead, and AI and recruiting's dead. Like, I really don't think the human aspect and need for our service is ever going to go away. It is going to transform. I think we're seeing a massive shift at the enterprise level. I think that staffing has been commoditized. Massive shift towards solutions. But even solutions is somewhat staffing mass sometimes. But there's just a massive commoditization at the enterprise level that has now, it has changed the way the big boys have done business in our industry, right? The biggest companies. And I think it's driving more stuff like guys like you and me. There's more people going out on their own that are offering a boutique service, niche service, hands-on, either to that enterprise or to that mid-market. So I do think the way business is being conducted, it opens up opportunities for guys like you and me. It challenges some of the bigger players to be more innovative, which I think the industry desperately needs, both at the staffing and the ecosystem side, MSPs, EOR, that whole world, VMS. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I do think that there is like massive change at that level.
Yeah, no, you definitely did. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, so what would always happen with my business is for all the statements of work I had across all my enterprise customers, every 18 months, there'd be an offshore vendor that came in and just tried to price cut me.
Right. Yeah.
They show me the emails. They'd be like, look, your competitor is saying he'll do it for, one person said they would do it for 10% of what I do. And yeah. I would joke with them and I would say, imagine what type of person you're going to get.
Yes. It's
like, period.
Yeah.
It's like what type of person is going to service you that would work for 10% of the current rate that you're paying? And what would happen is that would happen, and then they would have some conversations, and sourcing would make them talk to those folks, and then they would always stay with me. I almost feel like, and tell me what you think about this, I almost feel like some of those enterprise customers have switched to offshore, and maybe they don't have the funds to actually work with a staffing vendor or solutions vendor that is a premium service, right? So in my head, I'm like, is that business coming back? I don't know if it is, but I
don't know.
Right? Like, I really don't know if that's going to come back.
I think you're spot on. Like, I know there was a massive shift to nearshore, onshore, offshore. And usually that happens in cycles. This has been a very long cycle of that kind of sticking. So maybe it stays, and maybe we see more of a supplement that with more onshore solutions focused for higher end projects. But it's been, to your point, you get what you pay for, right? If the budget is only so much, then sure, we can help you, but you're going to get X type of resource, or we are going to have to offshore this. That person's not going to be in the office collaborating with you and driving value in person and, high touch, So it's been interesting to watch. You can physically see it. You can see the business moving offshore, nearshore that used to be right here domestically. So it's just been crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And I almost think it's like two fronts. It's like you have this variable of offshore cost allocation. And then now with AI, a lot of staffing firms are trying to use AI to decrease the probability that they have to increase headcount, right? So different AI tools for sourcing.
Right.
But even that, like, look, there are some really good AI tools for specifically for sourcing. But I just had a conversation with one of my best friends the other day where he said, candidate gets the offer, they want to go back and forth for 5 days, right? They say, I need 5 days. You already know what that means.
Yeah.
They most likely don't want the job, right? And he's trained on what to do. So he starts asking the proper questions of, well, what specifically are you thinking about, right? Where does this miss the mark?
Right.
And he has those conversations with her, and he ends up actually pulling her from the process where he says, hey, you're not on board for this. It's totally okay. You have something else going on. That's fine. To me, that is such a big value add for the end customer. And I don't see AI being able to do that. Just my personal opinion.
I don't either. I don't know. I mean, it's so early to tell, like what level can we get to? I think there's AI technologies that are spot on for top of funnel stuff. Also for commoditized type of roles, like high churn,
Agreed.
High volume roles. I think that's where they're playing today, and I think where AI adds a ton of value. I think for those higher end type of skill sets, whether it be in tech or whether it be sales, because when you're hiring salespeople, that's a personality thing too, right? You can't just check a box. I don't see AI being able to evaluate talent at that level. You're going to need a human in the loop at some point, right? But we'll find out. It's early. People are. There's a zillion tools on the market. I think, a guy like me who gets his energy off of relationships, you see all these tools. It is a lot of noise. Like, and I can't imagine being the buyer, being the customer, which I guess I am sometimes. Like, where do I start? That's probably where like guys like you and content and adding value before being asked comes into play. But
yeah,
it's a lot of noise.
Yeah, I like, even for me. So a couple of months ago, I had a client text me like, "Hey, are you looking into OpenClaw?" And I hadn't heard about it at that moment. And
That is.
so I was like, and in my head, I'm like, I'm supposed to be advising them, right, on like
Right.
good AI to implement, but it's too hard to keep up with because there's always something new. And
Right.
you made a really good point. Like the top of funnel, in my opinion, that's where good AI comes in. And if you create content and you create video content, you want people to know who you are and the problems you solve, you can use a lot of AI tools to help get your exact message out. But that
Yeah.
doesn't change the person who's articulating the message. That doesn't
Right.
change the function of closing a deal and keeping business too, right? Like
Right.
that's the hardest part, is to
Right.
keep
Right.
business.
We haven't even talked about retention. I mean, we're talking like that's a human's job as far as I'm concerned. And that's a skill
100%.
set. Just as much as there's demand for BD work right now, and that's what the market is demanding in our industry. I actually think it's actually a good point. Like we need to make sure that we're retaining those customers long term and nurturing them, and not getting a wandering eye because it is such a competitive market.
Yeah, to me, that is the highest leverage skill set that someone in staffing or any sales could have, is to be able to actually keep customers, to be able to keep business exclusive. And I'm sure you have folks too. Like I knew a lot of people in staffing where they'd say, I'm meeting with the CTO of insert gigantic pharmaceutical company, and
Yeah.
they're close and they're friends and they've known each other for 5 years and they golf every other month, and
Right.
that person doesn't get any business.
Right.
And I remember I would say, like, something's missing here. Like if you're spending time with your customer and they know you and they care about you and you care about them and you're adding value, you should be getting the business, period.
You have to ask the hard question. You have to ask. I mean, I'll golf with you all day. I'll go shoot hoops with you. I'll sit on a bar stool with you. I'll do whatever you want. But like at the end of the day, like you have something that you need to achieve. I can probably solve for that. And if I can't, then we'll talk about that. But you have to be, any salesperson needs to say, hey, listen, I'd love to help you out with that. Here's how I can do that. What do you say about working together? One form or another. Like you can't just be buddies. And I think that's, again, how do you screen for that, right? I don't know if AI could. I think you got to sit down and you have to ask thoughtful questions about how people prospect and nurture and close and all
Yeah.
that thing.
I'll tell you what, man, your business is AI proof because you're like in the weeds of that nuance all day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome because I'm talking to me all day, and not like I'm just talking to another guy. I'm talking to you. Like I'm talking to people that I like, worked with for 18 years. It's great, and I think where it's been so fun for me is I don't have to, like, I'm always learning, but I can kind of cut through the bullshit really quick because I know your model, I know your company, I may even know your owner. Like it's so fun to be able to cut through that real quick and get to, okay, what are we doing? Why aren't, if I'm talking to a candidate, I can usually figure out, like, why haven't you done X? I know you probably should have done X. If you've done X, then I'm like, oh, you're pretty damn good. Like, I could probably help you out.
You know the nuances. To me, when you think about a valuable business, it's all in the nuances, especially with AI, especially with
Yeah.
everything that's
Yeah.
happening. Somebody that actually is an industry expert, in my personal opinion, that is the highest form of value. And I'm sure your customers appreciate that. You probably know more about the industry than some of them. I'm sure you'd never say that, but it puts you in a really good position to advise them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to say to my team, you have to be a market expert. Like, you need to know your current customers, but you have to know your prospects and you have to know where they are. You need to know their names. You don't need to know their titles. You need to know the traffic patterns. If a candidate can get to company X and company Y, like you just need to know all those things. And if you know all those things, you're going to be unstoppable because you're going to be adding value naturally in conversation versus having to, like, do research and prep and do all that stuff, which is helpful
Yeah.
too.
Pull it out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick, where can people find you? So you're active on LinkedIn, right? Your content's been great lately. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. So the name of my firm is Peak Source Partners. So you can check us out at hirewithpeak.com. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm sitting right here unless I'm meeting with a client all day long. So, I'm watching this thing, but, definitely looking forward to continue to connect with other like-minded and high achieving folks within the workforce solution space.
Yeah. Great to have you, man. Super insightful. Anyone in my network, I say this about very few people. Nick is a rock star and he's a great person to work with. Any staffing agency owner, solutions owner would be lucky to have Nick on their side.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Great job, brother. Really good.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Talk to you soon.